I should have listened to my grandmother's warnings about the Pascagoula River. Should have heeded the stories passed down through generations in our family about waters that sing death songs and spirits that never found peace. But I was young, skeptical, and desperately needed the money from my night shift job at the paper mill along the river's edge. That was 3 months ago. Now, as I write this with trembling hands in the pre-dawn darkness, I know I may not live to see another sunrise. The singing has grown louder, more insistent, and I can feel them calling to me from beneath the black waters. It started on my first night at the mill. October 11th, the same date, I learned later, as the infamous alien abduction incident in 1973. Perhaps there's something about that date, something that thins the veil between worlds along this cursed stretch of water. I was working the graveyard shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., monitoring the machinery that processed raw materials. The mill sat right on the riverbank, its concrete foundation extending into the water itself. During my orientation, my supervisor, an old Cajun man named Boudreau, pulled me aside. "You hear anything strange out there at night, boy, you just keep your eyes on your work," he said, his weathered face serious. "The river, she got her own songs, and they ain't meant for the living." I laughed it off then. Superstitious nonsense, I thought. But that first night, alone in the humming mechanical darkness, I heard it. At first, I mistook it for the wind through the machinery, or maybe the distant sound of traffic on Highway 90. But as the night wore on, the sound became more distinct, more human. It was a low, mournful humming that seemed to rise from the water itself, carried on the night air like a lament. The hair on my arm stood up. I stepped outside onto the loading dock that extended over the river, telling myself I was just checking the equipment. The October air was thick with humidity and the smell of brackish water. Below me, the Pascagoula River moved like black oil in the moonlight, its surface barely disturbed by the gentle current. The humming grew stronger. I leaned over the railing, straining to locate the source. That's when I saw them, pale shapes moving beneath the water, dozens of them, floating just below the surface like underwater ghosts. They moved in formation, as if marching, their arms linked together in an endless chain. I blinked hard, convinced I was seeing things. When I looked again, the shapes were gone, but the humming continued, rising and falling like a funeral dirge. I hurried back inside, my heart hammering against my ribs. The next morning, I asked Boudreau about what I'd seen. "Pascagoula Indians," he said simply, not looking up from his coffee. "They walked into that river in 1540, maybe earlier. Whole tribe. The Biloxi were coming to enslave them, so they chose to die free rather than live in chains. Joined hands and walked into the water, singing their death song." He finally looked at me, his dark eyes serious. "Some say they still walking, still singing. River remembers everything, boy. Water holds on to death like a mother holds her child." I wanted to quit right then. Should have quit. But I needed the job, and in the harsh light of day, it was easy to rationalize what I'd seen. Trick of the moonlight, maybe debris floating downstream. The mind plays tricks in the dark. But the second night was worse. I was in the control room, monitoring the chemical mixture tanks, when all the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. That's when I heard it again. The humming? But this time, it was closer. Much closer. It seemed to be coming from the drainage pipes that ran beneath the building, carrying wastewater back to the river. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound, my footsteps echoing in the concrete corridors beneath the mill. The humming grew louder as I descended into the basement, where massive pipes carried the facility's outflow to the river. The sound was definitely coming from the pipes. I pressed my ear against the cold metal, and what I heard made my blood freeze. It wasn't just humming, there were voices, dozens of them, singing in a language I didn't recognize. The voices were layered, harmonizing in a way that was beautiful and terrible at the same time. And underneath it all, I could hear the sound of water, rushing and gurgling like a river in flood. I jerked back from the pipe, my heart racing. The singing stopped abruptly, leaving only the normal sounds of the mill machinery above. But as I turned to leave, I heard something else, footsteps, wet and squelching, coming from the pipe itself. I ran. Ran up those concrete stairs like the devil himself was chasing me, not stopping until I reached the control room. I stayed there for the rest of my shift, refusing to go anywhere near the basement or the loading dock. But running didn't help. They had noticed me now. The third night, they came for me in dreams. I was working the evening shift, trying to stay awake with coffee and determination, when exhaustion finally overtook me. I dozed off at my station, my head resting on the control panel. In the dream, I was standing on the riverbank, but not the industrial bank where the mill sat. This was the river as it had been centuries ago, pristine, surrounded by ancient cypress trees draped in Spanish moss. The water was crystal clear, and I could see all the way to the bottom. That's when I saw them. They were standing in the river, dozens of Native Americans in traditional dress, their hands linked together in an unbroken chain that stretched from bank to bank. Men, women, children, an entire tribe, their faces serene but infinitely sad. They were singing, their voices rising in harmony, and as they sang, they began to walk deeper into the water. The water rose to their waists, then their chests, then their necks. But they never stopped singing, never broke the chain. Their voices continued even as the water closed over their heads, the sound somehow carrying clearly through the water and into the air above. I tried to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The singing grew louder, more insistent, and I realized they were looking at me. All of them. Their eyes were like black holes in their faces, and they were reaching toward me with their free hands, beckoning me to join them. Come, they seemed to say without words. Come sing with us. Come die with us. Come be free with us. I woke up screaming, my supervisor shaking me violently. Boy, you've been yelling for 10 minutes. Boudreaux said, his face pale. What in the hell? The river, I gasped. They're in the river. They want me to join them. Boudreaux's expression grew grim. You've been touched by them, he said quietly. Once they notice you, they don't let go easy. My grandfather, he had the same thing happen to him. Worked at the old sawmill on this same spot back in the 1920s. Started hearing the singing, started seeing the spirits. One morning, they found him walking into the river, humming that death song. They pulled him out, but he was never the same. Spent the rest of his life fighting the urge to go back to the water. What do I do? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. You stay away from the river, he said. Quit this job, move inland, don't go near any body of water after dark. And whatever you do, don't listen to the singing. The more you listen, the stronger their hold on you becomes. I wanted to take his advice. I really did. But something was wrong with me now. During the day, when I was away from the river, I felt empty, hollow, like a part of me was missing. I found myself humming without realizing it, the same mournful tune I'd heard from the water. And at night, no matter where I was, I could hear them calling. The fourth night, I didn't even try to resist. I showed up for work knowing I was walking into a trap, but unable to stop myself. The singing had become a constant presence in my head, as natural as my own heartbeat. When I tried to ignore it, I felt physical pain, a deep, aching loneliness that made me want to scream. That night, I went straight to the loading dock. They were waiting for me. The river was full of them now, no longer hiding beneath the surface. They stood in the water up to their waists, their arms linked, singing their eternal song. Men, women, children, all of them with those terrible black eyes that seemed to see straight through to my soul. Their skin was pale and bloated, their hair floating around their faces like dark seaweed. But they were beautiful, too. Beautiful in their unity, their shared purpose, their freedom from the pain of the living world. They had found peace in death, and they wanted to share it with me. Join us, they sang, their voices harmonizing with the sound of the water. Join us and be free. Join us and sing forever. I found myself climbing over the railing, my feet finding purchase on the rusty ladder that led down to the water. The river was warm against my skin as I lowered myself into it, warm and welcoming like a mother's embrace. The spirits smiled at me, their faces radiant with joy. They opened their circle, making room for me, and I felt their ghostly hands clasp mine. Their touch was electric, sending waves of euphoria through my body. All my pain, all my loneliness, all my fear, it was washing away with the river current. Sing with us, They whispered. Sing the song of the drowned. Sing the song of the free. I opened my mouth to sing, and that's when I heard it, my grandmother's voice, cutting through the spirit song like a blade. She was calling my name, over and over, her voice growing stronger with each repetition. I remembered her stories, her warnings, her love for me. The spell broke. I tore my hands free from the spirit's grasp and lunged toward the dock, pulling myself up the ladder with strength I didn't know I possessed. Behind me, the singing changed to wails of disappointment and rage. The water began to churn and boil, and I could feel ghostly hands grasping at my ankles, trying to pull me back. I made it to the dock and ran, not stopping until I reached my car. As I drove away, I could hear them singing behind me, their voices following me into the night. That was 3 months ago. I quit the job that very night, moved away from the river, found work inland. But it hasn't helped. The singing follows me wherever I go, growing louder each night. I can't sleep, can't eat, can't think about anything but the river and the peace it offers. I know I'm going back. I know I can't fight it much longer. The call is too strong, the promise of freedom too tempting. They're patient, the spirits of the Pascagoula. They've been waiting for centuries, they can wait a little longer for me. But I wanted to write this down first, to warn others. If you work near the river, if you hear the singing, don't listen. Run. Run as far and as fast as you can, and never look back. Because once they notice you, once they mark you as their own, there's no escape. The singing is getting louder now. I can see them outside my window, standing in the rain, their arms linked, their mouths open in eternal song. They're beautiful in the moonlight, beautiful and terrible and free. I think I'll go to them now. I think I'll join their chain, add my voice to their chorus. Maybe in death, I'll find the peace that has eluded me in life. If anyone finds this, remember what I've told you. Stay away from the Pascagoula River. Stay away from the singing water. But if you can't, if you find yourself drawn to the riverbank on a dark night, if you hear the voices calling from beneath the black water, think of me. Think of all of us who couldn't resist the call. We'll be waiting for you in the river. We'll be singing. Forever. Editor's note: this journal was found in a motel room in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 3 days after the author's body was discovered floating in the Pascagoula River. Local authorities ruled it a suicide by drowning, but several witnesses reported hearing singing from the water on the night of his death. The singing stopped when the body was pulled from the river, but resumed the following evening. It continues to this day. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like and subscribe button, and then share it with your friends. Your support helps us grow and create even more awesome content. We appreciate you being part of the journey.